Everyone. Welcome back to the second installment of our Step into Podiatry webinar series. I'm Tiffany Kildale, Career Development Manager for the American Podiatric Medical Association. We're excited you all could join us today. This webinar is being recorded and will be available on the Step into Podiatry website later. We'll make time for audience questions at the end of the broadcast. So if you have any questions, you can submit them by typing them directly into the question box at the bottom of your attendee toolbar. Today, we're excited to have Mandy Now, Career Promotion Strategist for the American Association of Colleges of Podiatric Medicine, or AACPM. She's joining us along with admissions representatives Jennifer Bissett from Arizona School of Podiatric Medicine at Midwestern University and Angela DeSables from Kent State University College of Podiatric Medicine. Welcome to you all. So real quick before we get started, if you guys follow us on Instagram, official_APMA, you saw that we featured a true-false question in our Instagram stories. True-false. A Bachelor of Science degree is required for acceptance into Podiatric Medical College. The last time I looked, the votes on this were pretty evenly split down the middle. So before I toss it over to Mandy here, I'm going to say, Mandy, will you please fill us in and give us the answer to this riveting question?
Yes, I would love to. In fact, I'm going to pull up the answer right now if everybody can see my screen. The answer is, in fact, no. A bachelor's degree in a science is not required. And this is data from our 2019 incoming class, so the class of 2023, matriculating students, so students that were actually accepted and are part of the current first year class. Overwhelmingly, you can see that degrees in sciences are predominant, but if you drill down into, this is a sample of the top 10 undergraduate majors, you will actually see that psychology is our number 2 as a cohort degree. You can argue it's a social science. We can nitpick all day long if you would like to, but psychology is in there, as well as public health. I'm sure Jen and Angela, my colleagues here today, can give you more specifics about what they look for in undergraduate degrees, but certainly our overwhelming advice is to major in something that you enjoy. Clearly, if you're going into a medical field, you likely enjoy the life sciences, but it's certainly not required. In the many years, I won't say exactly how many years I have been working with podiatric medicine, I have seen students with backgrounds in communications, comparative religions, sociology, English, Spanish, come through the application process, matriculate, and then go on and graduate and become very successful practicing podiatric physicians. I think as long as you are telling your story of why this major was what you were passionate about and you're fulfilling the prerequisites, you're fine. You don't need an undergraduate science degree to matriculate to a College of Podiatric Medicine. And with that, I will actually just go on into, let's see, I need to move this little guy. Okay, there we go. Sorry, one technical difficulty. We're gonna go to our next slide. I thought maybe you guys would like to see a few slides today, just chatting a little bit about what the process is to apply to a College of Podiatric Medicine. Again, my name is Mandy. I'm the Career Promotion Strategist at the AACPM. We are an educational arm of podiatric medicine, so that means that we, in your journey to podiatric medicine, we see you coming in And then as you transition into clerkships and residency, so on your way out. And so that's a little bit about what our organization does. The path to podiatric medicine is a unique one. While it is a physician discipline, there are 9 colleges of podiatric medicine, and you do apply to those colleges of podiatric medicine, much like you would apply if you were going to go with an MD track or a DO track. You apply as a DPM. We are 3 separate licensed physician disciplines with 3 separate application processes. Primarily, podiatric medicine is its own discipline because upon choosing podiatric medicine, you are choosing your specialty in medicine. Now, foot and ankle, lower extremity, it's attached to the rest of your patient. So while the systems that you will learn and become an expert in are the lower extremity, you will learn medicine from an entire systems perspective. Okay, so you do, the leg is attached. In other words, what I like to say, it's attached to the rest of your patient. You have to understand how heart disease or other systemic diseases like diabetes or vascular peripheral diseases are impacting your patient's lower extremity. So you do 4 years of undergraduate education. Public, private, small, large, does not matter to us. Truthfully, you actually only need 3 years in order to become eligible, 3 years or 90 semester hours, although 97 to 99% of our applicants each year across all applicant pool have already acquired an undergraduate degree, and we are seeing an uptick in those who have gone on and done a graduate level degree or a post-bac program. Career changers sometimes use the career changer post-bac programs, but the majority of our students have already obtained the first 4-year undergraduate degree, the Baccalaureate of Science or the Baccalaureate of Arts. Once you matriculate into a college of podiatric medicine, we like to talk about a 2+2 curriculum, meaning that the first 2 years of roughly any college of podiatric medicine will follow the basic sciences. You will take gross anatomy, microbiology, biochemistry. You're going to be introduced to these basic sciences. In some instances, when you are in an interprofessional setting, you'll take those courses with students pursuing other health disciplines. We also have models where our podiatric students are one group taking that, and they are the only students in those classes. So each college has a different approach to teaching you pharmacology, etc. But the first 2 years are basic sciences, and we then begin the process of introducing you to the introductory clinical sciences. Now, the shift from basic science to clinical science in the second half of podiatric medical school, the second 2 years, are an emphasis on clinical science. Many of our programs will begin with allowing students to interact in very controlled environments where the patient you are interacting with is an actor. And these are interprofessional settings in some cases where you are approaching a case where, again, in a controlled environment, in a controlled clinical environment, you're introduced to clinical study. And then in some cases, those students transition to an on-campus clinic where it's a foot and ankle clinic. And again, you work under the supervision of faculty. And then as we approach the last 1.5 years of that 2-year clinical science education, we begin the process of clerkships, which is where students then leave their home campus and begin clerking really at facilities all across the United States. in order to gain additional experiences outside of the confines of their program, of their home campus. At graduation, then, at the end of the second year of clinical science, and again, 12 to 18 months of clinical externships, we then graduate our students and they go on to a 3-year medical surgical residency. 100% of our graduating classes will go into the residency that is a lower extremity medical surgical residency. When we compare our graduating class and the residency placement into surgical residency, again, 100% for us. And you think about the pathway to a surgical residency through an MD or a DO curriculum, you're fighting for, you know, a top spot in your class. You're fighting for a residency that's surgical. If you're interested in doing some kind of orthopedics, you're talking about a longer route that includes a longer residency, a more competitive process. So when we really truly say that this is the fastest route to a surgical profession, it's right there. That's the math. It's 4 years, the 2+2 model, which is 4 years of podiatric medical, and the 3-year surgical medical residency. And the residencies, again, all over the country. That, in this case, equals the Doctor of Podiatric Medicine. So I mentioned, where are the 9 colleges of podiatric medicine located? Geographically, you want to break them down. We have 3 on the West Coast, California School of Podiatric Medicine in the Bay Area, Western University College of Podiatric Medicine in the LA Basin area, Arizona School of Podiatric Medicine, my colleague here today, Jennifer Bissett, representing AZ Pod. In the Midwest, 3 schools, Des Moines University College of Podiatric Medicine and Surgery in Iowa, Scholl College of Podiatric Medicine in Illinois, and then Kent State University College of Podiatric Medicine in Ohio. My colleague Angela is here today from Kent State. So you can see geographically, they're representing 2 very different areas of the country when they're talking not only about their class size and, you know, their curriculums, but again, geography also plays a different a role in the differences that they could talk about today. And our Eastern Seaboard schools, New York College of Podiatric Medicine in Harlem, Temple University School of Podiatric Medicine in Philly, and then our school in Miami, which is Barry University School of Podiatric Medicine. So let's talk a little bit about prerequisites. So if you are attending a school where hours are in semesters, it's 8 semester hours of biology, chemistry, organic chemistry, physics, and then 6 to 8 hours, semester hours of English communication, some sort of a communication course. Many of you will achieve that through an English 101 type of a course. If you attend a school that is quarter-based, we absolutely accept quarter-based classes. It's just that the number of hours that you need is a little bit larger because of the way that the quarter system is distributed. But for our purposes today, we'll typically talk in semester hours. These courses are typically, you know, again, when you're talking about pursuing an undergraduate degree, when you look at the prerequisites, most of you are going to do the math and say, well, I'm so close to the biology degree, it makes sense for me to just go ahead and major in biology. And that's what many of our students are doing. However, this is also the same pathway that you can get to a biology minor or a chemistry minor. So again, when you're thinking about what makes sense for you, these are the types of courses that we look for in the prerequisite category. So, how do you apply? All 9 colleges of podiatric medicine participate in ACMAS, which is just a fancy way of saying a common application. Our application portal is right there, and that's where you can do one application and designate then which colleges of podiatric medicine you want to see your application. This is the same portal where you will submit your official Mcat scores. Mcat scores are required for all applicants applying to the colleges of podiatric medicine. In some cases, our schools will also allow you to designate your letters of reference, letters of recommendation, be uploaded into the application service. However, the letters by liaison, which is that particular service that we're talking about there, is not a requirement from all schools. Each school actually dictates its own preference for what letters are recommended. When you talk to me, I will say letters should come from faculty, advisors, folks who know what your pathway to podiatric medicine looks like. That might be an employer. If you are a non-traditional student, please don't feel like you have to go track down your biology, 300 faculty member if it's been 5 years since you've been in that class. People who know you now, that's who you should ask. Certainly, if you have been shadowing a doctor of podiatric medicine, obtaining a letter confirming that you have been shadowing, going so far as to obtain a letter of recommendation from that physician, excellent way to meet your letter's requirement. Other physicians that you have built up a relationship with, certainly acceptable to submit for letters of recommendation. Some schools will accept them by mail. Again, letters by liaison is another way to submit them via the portal. And again, not every school requires multiple letters. So that's something that you want to do a little bit of research in when you are going through that application process. Most colleges will look for a demonstrable understanding of the profession. Now, what does that really mean? It might mean that you've spent some time building a relationship with a podiatric physician in your town near where you go to school, and you've been shadowing. A demonstrable understanding of the profession might mean that you have a family member who is a podiatric physician. It might just simply be that you've been doing a lot of research, you have been attending webinars like this, and getting an understanding of what the profession is so that you can speak with clarity about your role as a future physician, okay? Other things that colleges will look for that you will want to put in your application is volunteer experiences. Some students will, their freshman year of college really tap into that one food bank. And man, you did 4 years of working at that food bank and you're really proud of what you've done at that particular entity. Talk about that. Your personal statement in the application is an excellent way to discuss how you've grown as an individual through volunteer activities. Maybe you bounced around a little bit before you landed on the animal shelter, but that was a really great release for you because of the stressors of college. And you're like, I found, the animal shelter. Tell that story. Tell us what that meant to you. It's a really important piece of your application. Many of you are working. Many of you are working a lot and you don't have time to do the volunteer work. Tell the admissions committee that information in your personal statement too. Don't ever make them evaluate your transcripts in a vacuum. Don't make them evaluate your work experience in a vacuum. That personal statement is such a valuable tool for you to explain, not whine. Please no whining is allowed in your personal statement, but to explain what is going on in your path to podiatric medicine. Extracurriculars, maybe you were the president of AED on your campus, or maybe you started a pre-podiatry club on your campus. Maybe again, you're volunteering, for things on your campus. Tell us that. Tell us your story. And those are some of the ways that you can do that. Now, for all of you, the deadline to do all of this for this cycle, so this cycle means starting this fall, class of 2024, the deadline is June 30th to get all of these things in. There is still time. Schools are still accepting applications. And so if you're worried that, oh, wow, it's kind of late in the year to be doing it, don't. For us, this is kind of the prime time of our application season. And so schools are still absolutely reviewing applications and transcripts and reading letters of recommendation. So definitely, if you're thinking about this fall, it is not too late. For those of you that are thinking about the class of 2025, so next year's application cycle, the new portal will open the first week in August. So you can take a little bit of a breather. You don't have to worry just yet. So those are the two big dates that you need to be thinking about. June 30 for this fall, and the first, it's actually technically the first Wednesday in August. That's when the new cycle will start. Now, every single one of you ought to be saying, but Mandy, all of those things that you just said I need to have in my application aren't available anymore. So I wanted to take just a brief minute to kind of run through our post-COVID-19 admissions modifications. And this is kind of a highlight. If you want to read more, you can go to that specific web page, our COVID-19 web page, and look at all of the things that AACPM is doing in light of the rampant changes that we are all experiencing because of COVID-19. You may have been laid off. You may not be working. Certainly none of you are doing on-campus volunteer work. In fact, I guarantee a lot of you are not doing any volunteer work right now, at least not in person. Again, tell that story in your personal statement. Tell how you went from doing the food bank work to maybe doing something online. These are the stories of perseverance that I think all admissions committees look for. Okay, so let's just kind of run down class of 2024, our current applicants. All 9 colleges have agreed and modified their admissions requirements to accept courses that were either started on ground and moved to an online format, even labs, courses that you are currently taking online, even labs, and they have all agreed that as long as your university is mandating offering courses online and you are sheltering in place, even labs will be accepted via online courses. So that's class of 2024. That one also happens to be class of 2025 and future applicants. So if you're a freshman or a sophomore right now, and again, freaking out because you're like, wait a minute, how am I going to get, biology online credit? We will accept it. Acceptance of pass, fail, credit, no credit grading, even labs. Absolutely 100% for the current applicants. All 9 colleges have agreed to accept that for future applicants. So you don't need to worry whether it was mandatory or not on your campus. We will accept. We want to be as transparent and accepting of what's going on in your world as we possibly can. Okay, the official transcript requirements. Now this is more of just an update of what's going on at Liaison, which is our partner in the application portal. They are making modifications to accept official transcripts mailed from the registrar, even though it may not necessarily be on official paper. This isn't necessarily something you need to worry about. I just want to let you know that it's going on behind the scenes. Many of you will also conduct the professional transcript entry. That process is still ongoing. Electronic submission of transcripts, that's still acceptable. I just want you to know that when you're contacting your registrar's office to request your transcripts, and again, in the back of your mind, you're saying, but the office is closed, We are working diligently with registrars all over the country, again, through our partner liaison at the application service, to make sure that there is no delay in the processing of transcripts that are coming in from your colleges. Okay, the two big ones for the class of 2024, virtual interviews. All 9 colleges have suspended on-campus in-person interviews, and applicants who are submitting now, when they are deemed eligible for an interview at any college of podiatric medicine, will be invited to a virtual interview. Now, that being said, every college is doing it just a little bit differently, and we ask that you have a little bit of patience with them in this process. But we've talked through this several times as a group, and I am really confident that all 9 colleges are doing a really outstanding job of making sure that you're getting a taste, a flavor of their campus through their interview process. And it's a virtual interview process. You're still having an opportunity to meet with faculty. In many cases, you're still having an opportunity to meet with the dean, current students, and even some cases get a virtual tour. So every single college is open. Every single college is answering questions. We're all working from home and we're working remotely, but we are all still open. The other traffic rule suspension for this class of 2024, you're the ones I'm talking to right now. April and May Mcats have been canceled. I mean, they just are. That's out of our control. What the schools have been able to do is modify their admissions requirements and allow students to be accepted without an official Mcat. Now, that's really the only thing I can say about it. The modification is allowed. How each college, and I'll ask Jen and Angela to speak a little bit about this on their campus, how they are going to ask for those scores to be reported is 100% entirely up to them. We at the AA have allowed the suspension of the traffic rule requiring it. How they adopt it on their campus is 100% up to them. Now, class of 2025 and beyond, our future applicants. Again, we've talked a little bit about the fact that online courses will be accepted, pass-fail grading will be accepted. Right now, you all should plan to take the Mcats. Guidance right now from AAMC is that Mcats will be offered again in September, potentially in August. I know that our colleagues at AAMC are working diligently to expand the number of seats available this September so that everyone who wants to test has an opportunity to test. You should plan to take the test and have your official score submitted via your application when you start that process. So that's what I have for you today. Check the website, again, our COVID-19 website, because truly that's the one that when things are updated, it will go there first. It will be on our social media second. And then that kind of reminds me to tell you that you can call. Our offices are still open. You can email. Our offices are still open. You can go to discoverpodiatricmedicine.org and sign up because all of our social media is on that website. So you'll see the latest Facebook posts. You'll see the latest Twitter posts. You'll see the latest Instagram posts. From discoverpodiatricmedicine.org. So if you are looking for information, that is an excellent place to go. I am just going to put this up for just a minute because I think it's really important that you know, and I'll bring this slide back up at the very end. This is our virtual fair, which is tomorrow from 11 to 6 Eastern or 8 to 3 Pacific, depending on which coast you're on. I'm going to let you do the math in the middle. And so if you want to talk to any admissions representative from any college of podiatric medicine, every single one of them will be there tomorrow. If you have specific questions about your situation or how the modifications to the current traffic rules or future traffic rules might impact your application, I certainly encourage you to register and attend. This is going to be a great opportunity. And with that, I'm actually going to kick it over to Jen. I'm going to kick it over to you.
All right, sounds good. So I am Jennifer Bissett. I'm a senior admissions counselor with the Arizona School of Podiatric Medicine. I've been with the university for 7 years, and yeah, so I will speak to the Mcat just really quickly before we start fielding questions. We are one of the classes that on our campus, we have decided that we are still going to require the completion of a current Mcat score to be able to matriculate into our program. That just has to do with the fact that we start a little bit earlier than some of the other schools, and we have only about maybe 1 or 2 seats left to fill in our class at this moment in time. So for us, we are nearing the end of our integral anyway. So yeah. But yeah, Glendale, Arizona, we're a nice warm day today. For those of you who are in colder climates, don't be jealous. It's going to be 95 today. It's a little warm, not going to lie. We skipped the 80s and we went straight from like 80 degrees to 95, but that's okay. So it's I guess a nice change of pace, but yeah, we're excited to have you guys here and answer your questions as we move forward. So.
My turn. Hi, everybody. My name is Angela DeSavos. I'm the Assistant Director of Admissions here at Kent State College of Podiatric Medicine. I've been with the college, I want to say about 5 years now, and kind of transitioned over the years, but I've definitely enjoyed this because it's interesting, obviously, speaking to prospective students and just opening their eyes about what this profession entails, but more importantly, from a bigger public health perspective, reinforcing the need for podiatrists and what role they play on the bigger healthcare team, and what role they can play even on smaller practices or whatnot. Our college is the largest of the 9 psychiatry schools, so we're able to bring in 125 students every year. We're still very actively accepting and reviewing applications. Just like Mandy mentioned, we've moved to a fully, virtual portal, just like all of the other programs. But in regards to the Mcat, just like in opposition, I guess, to what the program in Arizona is doing, we are not asking for an Mcat score if you are scheduled to take it, or you were scheduled to take it between March and June, and you do decide to matriculate with us in the fall. So we would go by, put a little more weight essentially on your academic accomplishments, your extracurricular activities that you may have gained in the past, and not require you to take an Mcat in order to finalize the decision. And I think that's more so because our program is the largest, so asking, potentially 40 to 50 students to take an Mcat would put us at a really low number, and I'm sure Dean would be very happy with that. So, where Jen was saying, for example, she only has 2 seats to fill, we're still pretty wide open in that sense. So thank you again for joining us. Obviously, we're more than welcome to answer any questions you guys may have at this point.
Awesome. You guys did great. Thank you for all of that information. And this is just a quick reminder to everyone that's tuning in right now. You can submit your questions through the question chat box that is available in your GoToWebinar toolbar. So we do have a couple questions for you guys. This first one, and I'm going to direct it at Mandy, but feel free, any of you can kind of pop in and answer this. Mandy, you did such a nice job showcasing where our different colleges of podiatric medicine are located throughout the country. With that being said, do different states, I just lost it. There it is. Do different states have different regulations for foot and ankle surgery?
Yes, the answer to that, well, okay. Yes and no. When you are a student and when you are in clerkship and while you are in residency, the state licensure for practice does not apply to you. So let's give you an example. I'm going to talk about Florida. So Florida has one of the widest scopes of practice for podiatric physicians, and you can go to school there and you'll be trained on the lower extremity. You might go to South Carolina for a clerkship. South Carolina has a more limited scope of practice. While you are in clerkship, or if you did a residency in a state with a shorter or a narrower practice requirement, you would train in residency with the orthopedic students. So there's modifications during clerkships and residencies to make sure that you are fully exposed to all of your elements of training, both medicine and surgical. And then when you go on and after boards part 3 and you become a fully licensed physician, you would then be subject to the practice laws of the state that you're practicing in. And if there's a follow-up question to that, I'm happy to answer it. I don't know if Jen or Angela want to add anything about what's going on in your states. Yeah.
Perfect. That I think summed it up nicely. So our next question comes from an individual who received their baccalaureate degree abroad, but completed a US-based post-bac program. So with that being said, are transcripts from international institutions required?
Yes, and so is a transcript evaluation. There are 3 or 4 of these agencies in the US, WES.org. Do either one of you actually know what WES stands for? Joseph Silney is another transcript evaluator in the US. You'll need to obtain one official copy of that transcript if it's available. Jen and Angela, you guys have probably worked with students coming from, Iran and Syria and some places where maybe that university is no longer in place. And there are ways where the transcripting agency can work with those applicants one-on-one. They're really good. Yeah. And so you would provide all of the documentation that you can. If it's a Cambridge, let's just say it's a university that's still fully operational, you would be required to get an official transcript, have it evaluated, and all that evaluation really is for our audience is a translation, if you will, from the European system or the Asian system, wherever you're coming from, to the US model. So effectively, they take those credits and they translate them into the US model so that people like Jen and Angela can say, okay, this biology that was taken at a foreign institution is equivalent to US biology 1 and 2, etc. Yeah. From the US-based post-bac program, you would be also required to obtain an official transcript from that program as well.
Yeah, and I think there are typically some small variations depending on the school that you're interested in. I know for us, for example, for international students who have a medical degree, who receive a medical degree internationally, if they've taken, for example, the USMLE Step 1 already, we are able to provide them with 1 semester's worth of advanced standing. I know some other programs may be able to do up to a year, depending on how their curriculum is set up. And obviously, wherever you end up matriculating for podiatric medical school, you're completing the exact same curriculum, but we may offer some classes at different aspects. So that's why, for example, for us, it's only 1 semester. For another school, it might be a year. So in your case, whoever asked the question, you may have to do a little bit more research in terms of reaching out to the program specifically, just to know where you'll fall if everything works out with your application and you are offered a seat in that class, when you would actually start.
Yeah, I would definitely kind of echo what Angela said and make sure you do reach out, because it's probably the exact opposite with ASPOD, and that we don't offer any advanced standing, just given the nature of our curriculum. With the foreign degree in particular, we don't offer any kind of option for that. And we don't take the USMLE in place of the Mcat either. So, so yeah, definitely reach out, because there may be some schools that are kind of in between the two of us as well. And so, so yeah, definitely reach out. We're all happy to always answer questions. So, thank you guys. That was helpful. Again, either of you, any of you can jump in on this one. What is considered a competitive Mcat score?
Well, if I know for Kent State, last year's class had an average about a 494. Every school, I want to say, ranges from maybe a 493 to maybe a 500 or so. I may be wrong, and you guys can correct me if I am, but
Absolutely correct. Across all applicants and matriculants. Matriculants are a little bit higher than the average applicant pool, but Angela, in terms of the range, that's exactly where we are.
okay.
Yeah, I would think my only piece of advice would just be reach out to schools, because with us being the smallest of the schools, we tend to have a minimum expectation. There's no minimum requirement, but the committee will look to see a minimum score of typically a 493, but our class average typically falls between a 498 and a 500 most years. So that's why we have that. And a lot of that has to do with the fact that we are fully integrated with our osteopathic medicine students for the basic sciences. And so being able to evaluate your MCAT with your academics to ensure that you're able to handle the rigors of the program is definitely why we look at it that way.
Thank you. Would a research mentor count as a science faculty letter of recommendation, or do you look for an instructor of a science class for a science faculty LOR?
We allow it. I think that's somebody else who can speak on behalf of your academic drive or even some of your academic accomplishments. And having had that opportunity to work closely with you, they may have more in tune, relationship with you and be better inclined to advise you essentially, or even to recommend you to a program. I think, Jen, you don't require a letter of recommendation, right?
Yeah, no, we don't require them at all. We'll definitely take them if you have them. We always love to, hear from those who are supporting you on your goals to becoming a DPM. But yeah, we won't hold it up in the application process. You'll be able to move forward without them.
So do you guys have any examples of extracurricular activities that students could participate in remotely for the time being that could help with their application or stuff like that?
So it might be a little hit or miss, but actually, I know I actually participated in a panel within my university. So we have a biomedical science program, and a lot of those students are going on to other types of health professions programs. And our osteopathic students, along with students from our physician assistant and DPM program, come together and they mentor these biomed students. And I sat in on a panel to answer questions about how to prepare for an application cycle and things like that. So if you have clubs that are still trying to meet virtually and do peer mentorship, I would definitely encourage that. I mean, I think with the use of things like Zoom and WebEx, we've definitely really been able to expand opportunities across the board for students to still get that face-to-face experience and interact with peers or mentors without having to be in the same space. So.
And to add on, it doesn't have to do with volunteering per se, but I know even for shadowing, since obviously shadowing has kind of come to a standstill in light of everything, we've been allowing students to just get in contact with some of our faculty members and counting that as, even though it's not shadowing per se, but as some kind of communication that you've had with a DPM who can, who you've just spoken to and ask specific questions about their practice and things like that. So even though you're not able to see some of the physicians that you typically would want to shadow, I say still reach out to them, email them, call them, ask if you can set up a Zoom conference for a few hours or something, or not a few hours, that's a long time, 30 minutes or so, just to ask them, interact with them, someone in person, and that could still count as you solidifying your desires to pursue this profession.
Yeah, I'm going to also say that, it's an excellent question, and I'm now thinking that maybe we should go and see if there are some national opportunities to do some, virtual volunteer work. But I'm going to also say your health advisor either, you know, your current one or, you know, a former one if you have already graduated. They are also going to be amazing repositories for things that are going on in, you know, their community, like, you know, your university community. You may not be there anymore, but in that university community, they are probably the ones who are going to be most in touch with, you know, what's going on. What's the AED club doing, you know, this month, you know, that, you know, something for you to be involved in an activity. You know, so be creative. You know, look for opportunities that maybe weren't present to you before, you know, the pandemic, and create your own. Maybe you see a need in your community. You know, set something up. I would say at this time it's better to be proactive than to wait for somebody to set it up for you. And again, that is an excellent opportunity for you to discuss, you know, what your crisis response was.
Yeah, even if it's, I would say, even if it's organizing, you know, tutoring opportunities with some of your classmates that may not be
Absolutely.
specific to working with a club, you know, you spearheaded some kind of, you know, Google Hangout every week to discuss biochemistry or something. That's always something you can add on your application down the line that shows that, yes, things happen, and obviously it happens to all of us, but you were able to keep pushing and keep yourself driven.
Yep. Your local library is probably having a virtual story time for kids who are out of school. Volunteer to read a book to a child.
Their parents will thank you.
Their parents will thank you.
Let's take a quick minute to talk about personal statements. We've gotten a couple questions coming in related to those. Are there certain prompts that need to be addressed in the personal statement? And how much should the student focus their character or background versus why they may be interested in pursuing podiatry?
Do you want to take that first, or?
I can, yeah. So it's definitely one of those things that a personal statement should always address why you are choosing to pursue podiatry. My advice is always to be very mindful of the characters that you are using and how you are using them. Yes, a story is a great way to initially entice somebody to want to read your personal statement, but sometimes trying to tell a story eats up a lot of characters and a lot of space in a personal statement. So I always try to advise students to move away from that kind of narrative storytelling, summarize that, and use characters a little bit more wisely as you move forward. But whatever that situation is that has helped you reinforce your journey to become a DPM, talk about that. Don't just leave it to be one paragraph at the closing summarization of your personal statement. You know, talk about it throughout your entire personal statement that shows that you are looking and you're interested in becoming a DPM. It can be a major life event that caused you. It doesn't have to necessarily be healthcare related, but a major life event that solidified your interest in healthcare and how DPM is going to help you fulfill that. I just talked to students the other day about, yeah, there's a lot of ways to go out and help people. So telling anybody that you want to go out and help people, that's great, but why is being the DPM the way that you're going to accomplish that goal of helping people? Because we, you know, Angela, myself, Mandy, we advise students every day. We help people every day with their journeys in a very different kind of role than a health professional would, but we're still helping people. So we want to know why that DPM is the path for you.
Yeah, and adding on to what Jen just said, I think seeing that desire not only to pursue medicine, but more specifically to pursue podiatric medicine always rings well in our admission committee. Again, just like Jen said, we all want to help people. You know, you may all have the desire to get into medicine, but why podiatric medicine is what's driving you is also important.
And I will simply add that your personal statement will be read by every college that you submit your application to. So please don't start with, I've always wanted to attend Kent State, and then also submit it to AZ Pod. That has happened in the past. Take an opportunity to explain trajectories in your GPA. Maybe you had a rough start your freshman year. Maybe you were a transfer student, which obviously is, evident by the fact that you would have multiple sets of transcripts, etc. But, to Jen's point about it's not telling a story, everybody has a story to tell, and make sure that you don't miss really important. This is the highlight reel of your life. So make sure you don't miss the important pieces that are really part of that story.
So hinging off of that briefly, any suggestions for students who are highly interested in pursuing podiatry, but fear they won't be accepted due to a low GPA?
I think, well, I would say, depending on where you fall, it's always best, in my opinion, just to start reaching out to the schools to see what each of the schools are advising you to do. Obviously, as you've heard, we all kind of fall differently in terms of Mcat averages, or even some of our entering academic averages. I know some schools may focus more on the Mcat, whereas, I know some of our, even within KSCCPM, some professors do, others focus more on your extracurriculars and your academic trends and stuff. So I think it's, at that note, it's best to get individualized counseling just to see what each of the school would have you or suggest that you do.
Yeah, I would definitely echo Angela's statement on reach out to the schools individually, because we may all provide a little bit different advice. And if that does happen, my recommendation would be to kind of gear towards whose expectations would be the most rigorous, and then know that you would fall in line with everybody else. But I think overall, the most important thing is that being able to show a positive academic trend. So when you apply, you're going to put in all of your coursework from freshman year, that first year of college courses, all the way through the time of application. So the important thing is that we see that you stumbled. We've all been there. We've all seen plenty of applicants who maybe didn't know what they wanted to do when they first started, and so they didn't focus quite as much. And then once they found that path, they did better in school. So being able to show that positive academic trend as you continue to take classes is one of the things that I'm sure everybody will take notice of.
Yeah. And just like Mandy mentioned earlier, being able to communicate that in your personal statement as well, that, I'm human, I made a mistake because I didn't know what I wanted to do, or I had a major life event that happened right at XYZ semester, and this is why my grades plummeted tremendously, and I was able to recover from that. Being honest, I think, gives us more room to feel human looking at your applications versus, reading through a personal statement or going through an application that's questionable, and then maybe the personal statement not correlating as much to what we're seeing. So, yeah.
Okay, I'm keeping an eye on the time here, and I know we've got a hard stop at 2, so I'm going to make this one the last question. So what does the application timeline look like in terms of how long applications are verified after submission, and then how long until students hear regarding an interview, and then how long until students hear of a decision?
I think it's maybe a two-part question. So from the time that you hit submit on your application to the time that all of your official transcripts are to Liaison, and again, that's our partner at ACMAS, that's kind of dependent on the applicant, right? So that goes as quickly as you make it go. Liaison has a 2-week verification guarantee for podiatric medicine. Even in the height of the pandemic crisis or the beginning of the application season, I've never seen it take longer than 3 days to verify once they have all of your official transcripts. From there, I'm going to turn it over to Jen and Angela, because their process then is different from ours at the accept your application.
Yeah, so for Kent State, once we receive your verified application, the admission committee will take a look at it. there are certain criteria that we have in terms of overall science, organic, and Mcat scoring. Depending on where you fall, all of those, we could either decide to move forward on your application and invite you for an interview, just upon receiving your application, essentially. The second decision could be to have the committee review it a little bit more at length. And the third decision would be, the least desirable one, which is the denial. And at that point, we would advise you as to what we think you should be doing. Now that obviously we're all virtually interviewing, we've been moving very quickly once we receive the application and are inviting people, sending out the links for students to choose what date they want to interview. So you could hypothetically submit your application today, 2 weeks from now. We know, for example, like Mandy said, your application is verified because you have all your transcripts and scores in if you have them. And within a few days of us having your verified application, you may be interviewing or receiving, information about interviewing on campus. Because of where we are in the application cycle, we're sending out decisions, I think it's 3 to 4 days after your interview. So very quickly, when you've gotten in. Depending on how many programs you're interviewing, you may have a 1 to 2 week window on when to pay your deposit. So if for any reason, you have 3 offers out and you want to interview at one more school, I know for us, at least, you can call us and tell us that you want to extend the offer if it is about to expire, to make sure you're weighing out your options as best as you need to.
Yeah. So with AZ Pod, once we get your application, we are trying to be pretty proactive and going in, looking at information right away. So if if we're waiting on anything, we usually can communicate that out to you. But we try to be proactive. The committee's looking at the applications as they're coming in and moving forward with them as quickly as possible. So if we get your application and we've got your scores and everything's there in your application, then it can be within, I'd say maybe a 72-hour time frame from receiving the application that the committee's made a decision on if they're going to invite you for an interview based on a number of factors, including, like Angela said, GPA, MCAT, extracurriculars. If we're going to place you on the wait list because we want to see something else maybe, and we can communicate that with you. Or if there are, usually for us, if there's 2 or more things that need to be fixed in an application, we would likely tell a student at that time that we're not going to move forward with a consideration because we want you to work on a few things to be a better applicant moving forward. We too are still moving forward with virtual interviews. I am working individually with everybody. So as soon as the committee decides to invite you, I send out an email letting you know what our interview days are, and we get you scheduled into a time that works best for you within our interview cycle. From there, it's still about a week. The committee is not rushing to make their decisions in light of the pandemic. We're still kind of trying to keep things as much as kind of structurally business as normal as possible. So our committee would usually conduct their interviews and then the next week meet and discuss applicants that have interviewed. And we've still hold pretty true to that. If that was to deviate, our program director lets you know at the time of interview. So it's usually about 1 week from the date of interview that you find out if you're accepted. And then we give you your time frame for a deposit. And like Angela said, if you wanted to interview, needed some extra time to make your final decision on if you were going to come to school with AZ Pod, just let us know. We can work with you to extend your deposit dates as well.
Fantastic. It looks like that's pretty much all the time that we have for today. I want to thank everyone for their great questions and for taking the time to join us. I know there were a couple questions that we didn't get to today, so I please encourage you guys, go attend the virtual career fair tomorrow and you can get all your questions answered and then some. I know Mandy has the registration link available on her screen that she's sharing right here. We also have registration for it available at stepintopodiatry.com/resources. Both redirect and go right back to this same page. So feel free, you'll get to meet with all the colleges, you'll get to chat with Mandy. Take your questions. You've got really good ones, and I'm sorry that we ran out of time today. I want to thank Mandy so much. I want to thank Jennifer and Angela so much. You guys were all great. Please
join us on our next webinar. It'll be next week, Wednesday the 29th. We're going to host a Q&A with third-year podiatry resident Dr. Jeffrey Zimmerman. Dr. Zimmerman will share some x-rays and clinical photos while walking attendees through prior surgical cases of his. So registration is also available for that at stepintopodiatry.com/resources. Thank you again to everyone who joined us today. Stay safe and healthy. Thank you, Mandy, Jennifer, and Angela.
Bye, guys.
Bye,
Take
guys.
care. I'm hoping to chat with you tomorrow, okay?
Take care, everybody.